Some of the terms used in partitioning can be confusing, as most of it has been around for a long time, since the early 80s. As operating systems developed, so has the technique of creating different types of partitions. However, much of the terminology has remained the same. So far we have created primary partitions and have discovered that the maximum number is 3, and when we tried to create a fourth one, it changed into a logical drive. To increase the number of partitions, we shall use the fourth partition to create an extended partition. This in itself can be misleading since extended partitions cannot be used until it contains logical drives. Although creating logical partitions is not preferred solution, it is still widely used within the computer industry. This task is a direct carry-on from the previous. Just so we can be clear, the DMC is just a virtual representation of the partitions. We shall first delete the logical and extended partitions. Don't worry if this sounds strange at this stage, as it is not expected for the first-time user to understand this, but it will become apparent in due course. So we select the light blue bar found within the new volume H. Now let's check this PC. Here we can see drive H has been removed. This means when the logical drive or light blue bar was deleted, the drive was also deleted. See how the light blue bar has now been removed and replaced with a light green bar. It is described as free space. But also notice the dark green border that still exists. Now we shall delete new volume F. And check this PC again, and we can see now drive F has been removed. Now to delete the extended partition. Once again, we have two unallocated spaces. Let's see what happens when we create a primary partition in the last unallocated space. This partition was a logical partition, but now is a primary partition. And again, we shall check this PC. Our point here is that no matter where in the DMC you create the primary partition, it will acquire the next drive letter. Now we shall create the fourth partition. As expected, it is a logical partition within an extended partition. The second point is it does not matter where in the DMC the unallocated space is. If you attempt to create a further new volume after creating 3 primaries, then it will be converted into an extended and logical partition. If we examine what we have right now in the DMC, there are 3 primary and 1 logical and no further unallocated space. Therefore, we will be unable to create any further partitions. Next we shall delete all the volumes and return it to a 500 gig unallocated space. Now when it comes to deleting the extended partition, we first must delete the logical. Notice the light blue bar. Now the bar has turned into a light green, which means it is free space in the extended partition. And finally, the last 2 partitions. Now we shall create 3 50 gig partitions. we shall make the statement logical drives exist in the extended partition. Let's create the first 50 gig partition. As soon as we attempt to, the whole unallocated space then becomes extended partition. Notice the dark green border. We shall create a folder called logical partition 01. Then check this PC. We can see drive E to H are all about 50 gig each. Once again, the user will have no idea which of these is primary or logical. Back at the DMC, the dark green border now surrounds new volume logical drive, blue bar, and also the free space, the light green bar. There can only be one extended partition per hard drive. Now let's return to our statement. Logical drives exist in the extended partition. This means the light blue bar, logical, can be found in the dark green border, or extended. As we mentioned, the terminology does not help, but with a little practice it will fall into place. So if we want to create a further drive, then it too would be created in the extended partition using the free space. We can see this in the next example. Let's create 4 50 gig logical drives. So we have to select the free space first. Then create a folder called logical partition 02. The next logical partition, and a folder called logical partition 03. The next logical partition, and a folder called logical partition 04. Then the final logical partition, and a folder called logical partition 05. Now when we check this PC, we can see we have 8 drives E to L. You may have noticed something. Since we are allocating drive letters to the drives, what will be the most we can have? It's 26 in total, another disadvantage of using basic disks and drive letters. Let's delete drive G and H and see the effects on the drive letters. Once again, each partition is separated from the other, so deleting or formatting one will only affect the one selected. As we can see in our example, there is about 50 gig of unallocated space and one 50 gig free space, and one 110 gig within the extended. The problem here is we cannot use the DMC to add all this space together. Our only option again is to remove the partitions and redefine them. Next we shall delete all the logical drives until only the free space is left. Once again we can see the dark green border and the free space in the extended partition. If we check this PC, we can see only the primary partitions E and F. Finally, you cannot delete an extended partition until you have deleted all the logical drives, since they exist in the extended partition. For some, this is a difficult concept to understand, but essentially hard drives were designed to have 4 primary partitions. The reason for this is that each partition contains a special coding that allows each partition to have an operating system installed on it. Example would be Windows 8, XP, Linux and Mac. When the computer booted, the user would select which of the operating systems they would use. However, if the system wanted 4 or more partitions, then the fourth partition would be converted into an extended partition. Hence the reason within this and the last task only 3 partitions were able to be created using the DMC. It should be pointed out that once the partition has been converted into an extended partition, the special coding used to boot the system is disabled. We shall now continue and delete all partitions and return the extra drive back to the 500 gig unallocated space. It is clear from this and the last task that basic partitioning has some limitations that need addressing.